Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. Today's daf is Daf Nun Vav in Yebmot, as we learn for our four shleimim for Yosef Ezriel ben Chaim Michal and Elazar ben Ruma, and in memory of my late father-in-law, Chaim Baruch ben Yisrael, whose yahrzeit is today. May he have an aliyah neshama. So the Mishnah had said back on Nun Gimel Amid Beis that Yibum takes place when he consummates the marriage, or the brother-in-law Shimon marries Leah, and whether he does it without even realizing it, because we said he has to have kavanah for an action, for the act of bia, but not necessarily to make the kinyan. To make the kinyan, he doesn't have to have kavanah. B'shog mezid ones ratzon, however it was, afilu he shogeg, she shogeg, it all works. Okay, then it said echad amara, whether he doesn't complete the bia, he just has initial contact with the bia. We had a machloket whether that's just the touching of the genitals or it's actually some penetration, whether he did a little bit of penetration or he completed it. It's all considered good. It's all considered the act of yibum. How much does that accomplish? So you say, what do you mean, how much does it accomplish? He's miyabim her. He's married to her. No? Well, we'll see. So all these, let's call them weak or acts. In other words, he didn't have kavanah. He didn't say, listen, I want to marry you and give a the mitzvah, and he did a regular bia. No, he did it b'shogeg, b'mezid, he did it for kavanah znus, or he did it by accident. He was forced, let's not call it an accident, but he was forced, or he didn't complete the bia. These are all what we call biot gruot, Rashi says, like weak bias. So do they accomplish the same thing or not? We'll see. My kana. Says the Gemara, it's really going on everything. All these different bias that aren't so good. It wasn't a regular bia with a proper kavanah. The Mishnah says, he acquires her. My kana, what do we mean by he acquires her? Rav Amar period. He's married to her, whatever is involved. Meaning not only the things that the Torah says the Yavam gets, he gets to inherit, he gets the estate of Reuven, the deceased brother. Not only that, but he's totally married in all senses. And we'll see if a person is a Kohen and he's married, man's a Kohen, and he marries a Yisraelis, she gets to eat truma on his account, right? Just like his children do. So we'll talk about this. Rav Amar Kana L'Kol is quiet forever. Shmuel says, no, lo kana el dvarma parsha. He only acquires her by one of these weak acts, let's call it a weak act, only for the things that were specifically said in the parsha of Yibum. For example, he gets the inheritance of his brother, ula potra min yibum, that to say that she no longer needs yibum. What does that mean to say? Let's say he does one of these weak bias and he never completes a bia. He never has a complete consummation with her. He has a weak. Let's say he only has hara, which is a partial act. He only has partial, or he didn't have, and then he ran away to Chutz La'aretz. He never completed it, and he died. So he says, if he died now, what would happen? Wouldn't he have to? Wouldn't she fall even, let's say, to another brother, right? So let's say though he had children from another marriage. It doesn't go by whether she had children. It goes whether he had children, right? It doesn't, right? When a man dies and he has no children, we mean he has no children. Period. He has no children. It doesn't make any difference. Maybe the wife had children from another marriage. It's not his child. So here also, maybe Shimon was married prior to somebody else. His brother Reuben died with no children, and he didn't have a complete bia with this Leah. He had a partial bia. Okay. And now he dies, but he had children from another wife. So there wouldn't be any more yibum now. That's what it means, yibum. In other words, whatever bia he had, weak, shogeg, ones, ratzon, whatever weak bia he had, or he only had a raw, it's enough for that, with the things that are written in the parsha. Meaning that if he has any yibum with her at all, she's part from yibum. Now, so that's what Rav says. So Rav first says he's kona for everything. Shmuel says not kona for everything. So what's the machlokas? Either way, we're saying when he performs a weak bia, he's performed yibum. No. So the Gemara explains like this. Min anasuin. Let's talk about the original brother Reuven, who dies now with no children. Was he totally married to her with Nasuin, or was only Arison? Does Yibum applies either way? Even if only betrothed her, gave a ring and said, he never completed the marriage, never got married to her, they never went to the chuppah, never lived with her, and he dies, there's still Yibum. So, min anasuin, if Reuven had been married already, there's no machlokas here. Meaning achla, meaning that if she's a Yisraelis, she can eat truma on his account, on the account of Ruvain. In other words, what happened here? Ruvain was a Kohen, and he was married to her, and she ate truma, died with no children. Now she fell to Shimon. Shimon didn't really have a great bia with her. He had a weak bia. Shogeg, Ones, Ha'ara, wasn't a complete bia. Still, can she eat truma now? Now, remember, after Ruvain died, before Shimon did anything with her, and she had no children, she can't eat truma, right? That's the rule, right? Pardon? Cannot. She cannot eat truma. In other words, the rule is that a Yisraelis who marries a Kohen in general, and she had children with him, and he dies, he could still eat truma because of unless she marries a Yisrael afterwards. But while she's an almana and she has children from him, she has children who are Kohanim, she can eat truma. If there are no children, she can't eat truma. The same thing with a Bas Kohen who's married to a Yisrael, right? Bas Kohen to Israel, she can no longer eat truma. She could eat truma in her father's house, but if she's married to Israel, she can't. However, if her husband died or left with no children, then she goes back to her father. That's what the pasuk says. So here we're talking about this. Reuben was a Kohen, and he was married to Leah, and she ate truma. Now he died with no children. She can't eat truma right now. However, if his brother Shimon performs even a weak even, let's call it one of these weak evens that we talked about in the Mishnah, everybody agrees she can eat truma again. But Divrei Hakol Ochla, says the Gemara in the 6th line on Nun Bava Aleph. Why? Davas Kachel Mikar. She ate before, and now Shimon is supposed to be taking Reuben's place. So everybody agrees then she can eat truma. Keep thinking about Erison. If Reuben was never married to her, now let me explain something up front. If a Kohen marries a Yisraelis and he only did Erison, he only did betrothal, right? He didn't marry her totally. He didn't consummate marriage. She doesn't eat truma. Minat Torah she could, because she's Kinyan Kaspo. As soon as he marries, as soon as he acquires her with a ring or money or whatever, shtar, Minat Torah she could. But the rabbi said don't. Why? Because where is she living now? She's still living at home. We're afraid if he gives her truma, she'll take it home and give it to her brothers and her family. So the rabbi said she shouldn't eat truma. Only if she's only betrothed to a Kohen. So here's the issue. Keep pligim and Erison. Reuben died from he had Erison with her, and then he died with no children, obviously. And now she fell even to Shimon. Rav says, "Ochelas, she could still eat truma." Once he performed even, because he's married. The Rabbi Rahman, the Torah says, "Be a shogeg kameza." We learn out the yibma. No matter what shogeg is like, meza makes no difference. Or like meza, she is shogeg meza. Here, meza probably doesn't mean so much. Then bonus been brought some meaning. It's like he did it willingly. Makes no difference. He's fully married to her because that's what the Torah says. You perform yibum, and if he marries her in any sort of a bia, it's like he consummated the marriage, and that's it. And she can eat truma now, even though she didn't eat truma during Reuven's lifetime because he never consummated the marriage. He never had chuppah with her. Shmuel says no. Amar Kira Barachmana look maybe Makambal. The Torah says the Yavim takes the place of the husband, right? The original husband, Reuven. Did Reuven give her truma? No. So Shimon can't either, right? Right? Kira Barachmana look maybe Makambal. La Lume Baal to make him stronger than the Baal with such a weak bia. Now there's no machlokas if he really consummated the marriage with a regular bia. There, of course, he's married to her. There's nothing to talk about. It's a regular wife. But over here, we want to give the power of a Yavam, who didn't even, that we shogig mason and all that stuff, that it's a weak bia, should be stronger than the husband. Lo, we never did that. That's what Shmuel says. Shmuel goes according to his reason. Kol shabal machil, when the husband can give her truma, Yavam machil. Kol she'ena bal machil, if the husband didn't, because he was only at Erison to her, and now this Shimon had a weak bia, Yavam machil also came out. That's Shmuel's opinion. Mason, now we're going to ask a kasha on Shmuel. Bas Yisrael Pigos, a regular, normal Bas Yisrael, a regular Israelis girl. She Nisar Shel Kohen. She got engaged to a Kohen Pikech, who was also normal. Pikech means he's smart, he's normal, right? Then he became deaf. Again, deaf doesn't mean like we understand today. Deaf could be a genius IQ. We mean where he was mentally impaired. In other words, something happened to me, he had an accident. Something happened to him, he became mentally impaired before the chuppah, before the nesuin. Eino chelas, she can't eat truma. Why? Because he can't perform a regular person who's mentally impaired. His act doesn't count, so he can't marry her menat Torah, and therefore the rabbi said Okay, Midrabanan, the rabbi says you can't eat, there's no truma until you're fully married. So she can't eat truma. She can't eat truma because he never consummated the marriage as a normal person. Mace, if he died, and he fell to a yavam chayrish, she fell to a yavam also was mentally impaired. Ochelis, she can eat it. The husband couldn't feed her truma. Why? Because he was mentally impaired. True, he was engaged to her. That was okay because he was normal when he got engaged to her. And minat Torah you can, but the rabbi said no, we don't allow it because we're afraid if we let a yav, we let it. Now you say, why don't the rabbis make an exception here? Rashi explains because we're afraid if you allow a chayrish who marries her to give her truma, you might allow a chayrish who gets engaged to her. Let's say he was a chayrish, she was mentally impaired when he got engaged to her. It's not an engagement in Torah. He can't give her truma in Torah. She's a zar. She's like a zar. Can't eat truma. So the rabbi said no. Either. So here you see where the husband cannot give her truma because he was mentally impaired when he finished the marriage to her, and yet the yavam can. It was so Bishlam the Rav Necha. According to Rav, it's good because Rav says that the yavam has more power than the husband. The husband, like here where he was mentally impaired when he performed the Nisuin, is like the case before where Ruvain died without having completed the marriage. He was only Erison. Here also, the guy had an Erison, never had a Nisuin Minat Torah. And we said before, according to Rav, yeah, Yibam still makes her, he can still give her truma, even though the original husband can't. And that's what we say. So Bishlam Rav Shmuel Kasha. Shmuel says that the Yavam with a weak bia cannot do any more than the husband. Cannot do more than the husband. If the husband didn't feed her because he was only engaged to her, betrothed to her, so he can't either. Shmuel say, this is how you have to read that brisa. It's not that simple. It's not then he didn't marry her until he became mentally impaired before he married her. No, this is how you have to read it. Says if he didn't marry her until he became mentally impaired, but let's say he married her. Let's say he married her. Not only did he have Erison, but he had Nasuin with her when he was normal. And then he became mentally impaired. She could still eat truma, even though he's mentally impaired now, but he acquired her and he's a Kohen. She belongs to him. Mace, now if he died, the Yavam also is mentally impaired. She could still eat truma now. She could eat truma now because she ate truma before with Ruvain. Now, if the brother was a cherish, so what? If he performed Yibam doesn't require das. Even if he's impaired, it can accomplish it. You see this umay bezu. What does it mean over here? The koach of the Yavam has more than the koach of the Baal. The Baal cherish mikara lo cheles. If the husband, and when he married her, if he was a cherish when they got married, when the suin, she can't eat truma because you didn't have a real marriage. Marriage has to be a person who's normal, who's pardon? No, the marriage is not chal. There's Erison, yes, but the rabbi said you can't eat truma until you had Nisuin. There's really no Nisuin Minat Torah. There's no Nisuin Minat Torah. The ilu yavam cherish mikara achla. The yavam, if the yavam is a cherish, she could eat as long as she fell from Ruvain, who was married. If Ruvain had a legitimate marriage to Leah, and he didn't become cherish till later on, and then she fell to the Yavam could give her to eat truma because he's coming with the power of it. Because there's two kinds of marriage. There's a regular marriage you need das for, and there's a Yibam marriage that you don't need das for. So you see, a Yibam is stronger in a way than cherish. But Shmuel stands his ground that if she fell from Erison like this, she fell from Erison and had a weak bia, that's like no das. It doesn't, and you can't. She couldn't eat true. Some say the other way around. That we're not talking about here where. Okay. We're not talking about where it's min Erison the machlokes. You can have min Erison the biakol. Everybody agrees. Rav and Shmuel both agree that if Ruvain had Erison with Leah and he died now, everybody agrees he can't eat because he couldn't. She said she can't eat truma. She couldn't eat before. She can't eat now. The Yavam can't be any better than has no more power than the original husband. If she didn't eat when her husband was alive, she can't eat now. If it was with a weak bia now, keep pleading in an asuim. If she felt him in asuim, that even here's the machlokas. Rav says, If Reuven had Nesuin to her, she fell now to Shimon even can eat. Why? Because she ate before. The Havas Achel Mikar, she ate before. Shmuel Eno Chelas. She still can't eat. Kira Rachmana be a shogi. When the Torah say that it be a shogi is like Mesed, meaning that it's like a regular marriage, like he had Kavana, the Dvarmum Parsha, like the things we said that he inherits her, and if he dies now and Shimon had other children, there's no more Yibam. He patches from me. And not for giving truma. So therefore, everybody agrees, not, but Minasuin, it only works. When can he give a truma? Only if it's a full marriage. A full marriage. This is not a complete 100% marriage. Kana, even though the Mishnah said Kana, which Shmuel doesn't sound like our Mishnah, because the Mishnah says any even works. A bad mazid, ones, ratzon, shoge, and only initial contact, raw. It doesn't make any difference. But Rav says, yeah, it doesn't make any difference. Shmuel says this. I've Rav Nachman Shmuel kol shabal machil yava machil. Shmuel himself said whatever the husband could give yava machil, right? So what do you mean by if the husband kol shabal machil yava machil? So how can he say over here that he can't be machil? Ema kol bia shabal machil. If the husband has a bia, meaning has a bia of chuppah when he consummated the marriage, kol bia shabal machil yava machil, kol bia she'en machil and yava machil. Meaning that if it's a bia, a regular bia that was normal enough, meaning that the husband had a bia, a normal bia, he had in mind for nesuin, then the yavam could also do that way. But if the baal didn't, because he was, let's say, he was mentally impaired, the yavam can't do it if he's mentally impaired, even if he fell from the suin. According to this, Shmuel's saying a far out thing. Shmuel's saying that even though Reuben was fully married to her and she ate truma, and now he dies, if Shimon is either mentally impaired or didn't have a complete bia because one of the weak bias in the Mishnah, does not give her. So what does it mean? Kol shabal bia? If the husband did any bia that the husband would give her with, meaning if he was normal, then the oven was normal, could also do the way if he had a normal one. A normal bia and a normal mind and all that. But if it wasn't normal, it wouldn't work. Meisvei, but now we're on a Kash on Shmuel. Again, the same price we had before. A normal Jewish girl was engaged to a Kohen, and he didn't get a chance to marry her before he became mentally impaired. She can't eat. She can't eat, right? Because he never really married her. Minatorah didn't really affect it. Mace, same price.
Is she really a Yibam?
No, we're not talking about Yibam. No Yibam yet. Yeah, she would follow Yibam, yeah. But we're not talking about Yibam yet. She can't eat truma. Mace, if he died now, while he was mentally impaired before he married her, Reuven, before he married her, she could eat truma. This is the kasha even on Rav, because Rav said that everybody agreed that the erusin it doesn't work. She can eat. So what are you going to do with Rav? Rav himself said that if Reuven wasn't totally married to her, she can't eat truma now from Shimon. So Matarit's going to tell us the same answer we said before. We said before in Shmuel that it means if he married her before, if the first guy Reuven married her while he was still normal, and then he died and he fell before the Yavim Cheresh, then she can eat, right? And that's what we said before. That what did Shmuel say? Then she can eat. If Reuven became mentally impaired after he fully married her, and then if he died, she can eat because of the original husband, right? That's what we mean according to us. So if she was fully married, then Rav agrees that you could marry. Shmuel said that even if she was fully married to Reuven and she fell before Yibam now, before Shimon now, he couldn't eat. That's what we said in the Ikonim. We're saying that the machlokas is even by Nesuin, that Shmuel says, even if she was fully married to Reuven, it was 100% good, and now he died, and the brother Shimon was mentally impaired, or he had a bad bia, like ones in the Mishnah, that she doesn't eat truma. And here it's mashma, she does eat truma. Shmuel kasha. It's like kasha and Shmuel. So it's mashma. The loch is like Rav. That when he performs, even whether it doesn't make if it's a weak bia or a strong bia, it doesn't make any difference. He acquires her for everything, and he can eat truma. Now we said everybody agrees maybe that's only an asuin, but maybe Mena Erison not, right? So Rav is saying in Mena Asuin, keep leaking Mena Asuin. Rav says she could eat, she was not, but Mena Erison, if she fell from Erison, she can't eat truma until he has a regular marriage. And once they're fully married normally, then she could eat truma, obviously. But if it was only a week truma, she can't. So that's shot that even though we say Yibam can be performed with a week bia against the will and all that, but in terms of eating truma, it's only when they're fully married. Tanraban at the 2 dots. Again, the same case. A regular Jewish girl married a Kohen Tikach, but she was only Erison. Then he became mentally impaired before the wedding. She can't eat truma. Okay, she can't eat truma because, as we said, you can only give truma once you're fully married. No laben. Okay, but let's say, okay, you asked, is the marriage effective? He married her anyway, but it's not really of marriage d'oraisa. But this chayrish now, he was engaged to her. Then he became mentally impaired, and they lived together anyway. He gave her a marriage. It's a marriage d'rabban. It's not a marriage d'oraisa. No, and they had a child. Now she can eat because of her child. So Achelas, she can eat truma because of her child. Remember, a Bas Yisrael who's married to a Kohen can eat truma. Or if she's not married to a Kohen, let's say he died, divorced, right? Let's say he died or divorced her, but she had children from him. She could eat truma because of the children. So Mesa ben, let's say the child died now. So Rav Nosson Omer, Ochelas, she could still truma. Chum ain't Ochelas. Chum they can't. My time of Rav Nosson. What's Rav Nosson's reasoning why she can eat truma, right? Even if the son died, Amarava, because she ate before. What kind of as far as that she ate before? She always ate before when she was married to the Kohen. She should also eat shekvar achel. The Torah says, no, you're married to a Kohen and he dies and there was no children, you can't eat truma anymore. So what do you mean? Are you going to say also because she ate before? Even the mace, once he dies, the kedusha's gone. She can, her kedusha's left. Kedusha's left her. The kedusha's Kohen family. She's no longer called Mrs. Cohen, and she can't eat truma anymore. Listen to this. We said before. Remember, I said before that Torah you could eat truma. She could eat truma as soon as she's betrothed. But the rabbi said no. Don't give her truma. Why? Because she'll take it home. Okay, once they're married, though, okay, then it's not a problem. Torah, then there's no problem. See, here also the nesuin of a cherish, even though it's not a suin min Torah because he didn't know what he was doing. We're not talking about yibum over here. We're just talking about nesuin. If he was mentally impaired, he can't marry her fully. He can't perform the chuppah. But since he's married, even if he's not married min Torah because he's mentally impaired, but they're still living together, so there's no reason to be concerned anymore that she's going to take the food home and give it to her family, to give it to her brothers. So the Rabbi Nassan says, Nesui Cherish, you could still give truma there. You can't because she's living at home. But Nesui Cherish, you're not worried about it. Amalei Abaye, so therefore, that's what he's saying is that Amalei Abaye, Iyachi no laben lamli. What does she have to have a child for? If you're saying that this Kohen got engaged to her, she can't eat truma yet, right? Then he became a shota, he became a cherish, or he became mentally impaired. What's the rule? So and then he married her, so to speak, married Drabanan. So Rav Nosson saying, you know what? No, then she could eat truma then because they're living together. So what do you have to have nola ben? What do you have to have? If she had a child, she could eat because of the child. You don't need a child. She's married to the guy. She's married to the Kohen. Mishum Rabbanan, the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan say that where goes in Nesui cherish atu kedusha cherish. The Rabbanan said even if you're fully married, if the cherish marries her, we still don't let her eat truma because we're worried that kedusha cherish you also give her truma and then she can't eat truma. But if she had a child, even the Rabbanan are moda that she can eat because of her child. So look for Rabbanan Nassan allow. So why don't Rav Nosson argue at the beginning? Why did the beginning of the Bryce had said that if he became a cherish before, right? And she can't eat truma. But Nosson, she could eat truma if he married her, if he married her in the state of being a cherish, right? The answer is right. He does argue that too. He waited till the rabbis finished everything. In other words, he says that even if he became a cherish before he fully married her, she could still eat truma because of him. And also if there was a child, for sure. So let the rabbis finish their whole memra and saying you don't eat truma if there's no child, but if there is a child, you can. And then he argued with them. Listening Mesa. If that's the case, it should have said Mesa ben enochelis, that the Rabbanan says you can't eat, and Rav Nosson says ochelis because Rav Nosson is arguing with all issues. Rav Nosson says she can eat truma if the chayrish married her as a chayrish, or if she had a child, and then he should have said ochelis. He should have argued if Rav Nosson was waiting on both counts. He was arguing with the Rabbanan number one if the chayrish marries her. The chayrish says marry her, according to Rabbanan, you still can't eat truma, and Rav Nosson says you can. And then he argues if there was a child and the child died, right? The child died, umeis, what do we say? The ocheles v'chom ein ocheles, no la ben ocheles, mesa ben Rav Nosson says ocheles, she could still eat. My town Rasa. So what's the idea that even if the child died, she can eat? Why? Because she ate before. So she ate before. So what is eating before meaning? Meaning she ate before when he was a Kohen. So the point when she was fully married to the Kohen or married as a Cherish, the point though is that Rav Nosson says in both cases she can eat truma. So why didn't it have Rav Nosson at the end? Why did the Brisa say if the son died, Mesa ben Rav Nosson says ocheles v'cham ein ocheles? You should give you all the opinions of the Chacham. The Chacham say ein ocheles if the Cherish marries her, and ein ocheles if they had a son who died. And Rav Nosson says no, she can eat. He can eat anyway. Right? You can eat anyway. If Rav Nosson is really arguing with everything, the order should have been that Rav Nosson argues at the end, not at the beginning, right? So when we say over here when the son dies, he doesn't mean that the son dies and the husband is also out of the picture. Like Rashi says, Mesa ben of Kayim, the father's still there. So we're saying like this: if the Cherish married her, what are we saying to understand the Brisa? A Kohen got engaged to her, and based on that, their engagement at Torah. But the rabbi said, don't eat truma yet because he doesn't want to take it. You don't want her to take it home to her brothers. If she marries her, if the Cherish marries her, it's only a kedushin drabanan. But Rav Nosson says, okay, basically she could still eat truma because they're living together. Then if they had a child, but it's an assumed drabanan. It's an assumed drabanan. Kedushin manator. What I say? Yeah, it's kedushin manator and assumed drabanan. Now, but he can marry her based on that. The rabbi, because ben Torah she can eat truma already based on the kedushin. As soon as on Rav, let's say if they had a child, they can eat based on the child. The Rabbanan say you can't eat based on the suin of the chayrish, and you can't eat based on the child if the child died. Whereas Rav Nosson says no, either eat because of the child or eat because of the. You don't need the child. You don't need the child. She can eat because the husband. If there was a child, the rabbi said, then the rabbis agree, oh, she can eat because of the child. But if the child dies, she can't eat anymore. Rav Nosson says, no, with the child or without the child, she can eat because of the husband. And that's the pshat over here in this Brisa. Rav said that the following thing was told us by Rav Sheshes, and he wanted to enlighten our eyes to bring a proof from our Mishnah. What do we test? We mentioned this case before. What's the halacha if a Jewish woman married to Israel was raped, Rahman al-Islam? Can she stay married to her husband? Yes, she can. If she's married to a Kohen, we know she cannot. She cannot. Let's say she was married to Israel and she was raped. She can stay with her husband, but what happens if her husband dies now? Can she marry a Kohen? No, she can't because she's still considered like a zona. This is what Rav Sheshes told us. Rav Sheshes told us this thing. And he wanted to prove it from our Mishnah. He wanted to line us the proof from our Mishnah. How do we see it in our Mishnah? Our Mishnah said this thing about the Yavam marries her, blah, 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 anyway, a week if the Ara, Ratzon, etc. And then the Mishnah said, any of the other forbidden marriages in the Torah, right? All those things, any kind of pasla, any kind of bia apparently ruins her from marrying a Kohen. A Grusha can't marry a Kohen anyway, but let's say an almana to a Kohen gadol, or marrying any of the other ones that ruins her from marrying a Kohen, or ruins her from eating truma in her father's house, that she's now considered a zona, even if it was one of these weak kind of bias, like it was only partial penetration, or it was b'shogeg, onus, whatever. So you want to bring him from Mishnah because the Mishnah is v'chena ba'alach Sarah. We said Yevavam, a weak bia accomplishes the same thing, and according to Rav, it accomplishes everything, right? Accomplishes everything as long as she was fully married to him before. The Tanatun v'chena ba'alach, he says, and the same thing. And our Mishnah says, say if you live with one of the arayas, if you had a forbidden sexual relationship. So kind of alchas from the Torah, psulos, one of the rayas, or somebody you're not allowed to marry. Arayas means, like you married incestual or ish, or somebody you're not supposed to marry, like a Kohen Gadol to an Almana. My v'chein, what do you mean? My love, lo shnim shog lo shemezit. Doesn't we? If the marriage was b'shogig or b'mezit or rev lo shnim, however the contact was, uktari pasla ruins her. So you see from our Mishnah too that even though Eishes Yisrael shenensa, right? She was, if Israel was raped, she still can't live with a Kohen. She can stay with her own. If she's married to Israel, fine. But if the husband dies, she can't marry a Kohen. So isn't that a proof from our Mishnah too? Because the Mishnah also says ones ratzon etc. ruins her low. My v'chein arah. It's going on arah. That arah is the same. We're not talking about psuls. We're just saying that arah accomplishes the same thing when you're doing one of the. We're not talking about shogeg ones that we're trying to say over here. Shenensa. Maybe we're just talking about that the hara of a bia psula also ruins a woman from truma from a kohen. V'chein hara demand. Who's hara? Ilema darayis hara darayis. L'meimer darayis yafim yivama. We said at the beginning of the Mishnah, in these cases, the yivama of hara, even hara accomplishes yivama. Even a partial penetration also accomplishes yivama. And the same thing by arayis. What do you mean the same thing by arayis? Adarabba yivama yafim arayis. You learn out arayis from yivama. We learned out yivama from arayis. The ika hara by arayis. So we said by nida valnisha by nida. It says we said. Yeah, we said it says by Anida. The main part of hara is not, doesn't say by Yavam. Yavam is learned out from Arias, not Arias from Yavama. So how can you say that? And the same thing by Arias. If we're telling you that hara works, accomplishes bia and ruins a woman, don't say you're not learning out Arias from Yavama. You learn out Yavama for Arias. Adarabba Yavam Yafim Arias. Elamai b'chein. Maybe b'chein means ashalo kadarka. If you have bishlo kadarka, an unnatural sex like anal sex, the Arias. Adarabba Ika Mishkevei Isha B'Arias. Again, Mishkevei Isha talks about by Arias, not by Yavama. So what do you mean? This applies by Yavama and also Arias as well. Just the opposite. Elamai b'chein ashalo kadarka chayve lavin. Rashi learns chayve lavin's kohen gadol amana. Tosfos learns a little bit different. We're talking about other chayve lavin, not of kahuna, but let's say mamzer, etc. That you're not supposed to live with somebody. That means shelo kedark of chayve lavin is also like yivama in that sense, because the other ones you learn out kicha, right? We had by Cohen. Rashi says chayve lavin almar lekohen gadol u'shel chasei haydan the loksibu mishpei isha. Because we had the Gzeir Shabbat before yesterday of kicha. So hara we don't need that. But for other, it means that other chayve lavin for that. So therefore, it's not talking about Eish Yisrael Shenensa like a proof in our Mishnah. The Mishnah is not necessarily a proof to that. Amarabba, Eish Yisrael Shenensa Baal Loka Mishnah Zona. Listen to this. A wife of a Kohen who was raped, we said, remember, he can't marry her. Right? That's a terrible tragedy. If a wife of a Kohen was raped, he has to divorce her. He can't stay married to her. Let's say he stays married to her, and he says he's Loka Mishnah Zona. She's considered a zona, even though she's not a prostitute. But she's considered because she was defiled. So shenensa bala logo mishum zona. We're saying about mishum zona mishum tumalo, not from tuma. Remember back in Yefirov, we learned in the parsha of machzor b'shasam mishanissus, a woman who was divorced, married to somebody else, and then the first guy took her back after the second guy divorced her and married her. So it says there, it's talking that's a law of Gushmas, but it says over there, achrei shutamu. We learned that it's speaking about a woman who was also raped if she committed adultery, not adultery on purpose, but she was raped, that there's a lav there too. The lav is going on that. So he says, what do you mean? Only zona, and what about tuma? There's also a lav. He's not supposed to be married to her. Ema afvishim zona. She's a double. According to Rava is saying this, that if a Kohen stays with his wife after she was raped, he's chai for two lavim, zona and tuma. Masav Rav Zeir, he learned asura in the parsha of Sot. It says if she wasn't seized, if she wasn't grabbed, right? If she did it willingly, then she's also hanispasu. But if she was raped, she's mutter. The eish lachacheres, and you learn out from there. There's another one, eishes kohen, shafishin aspasu. Even though she was raped, she's also eizuzu eishes kohen. But it's learned out. That's a lava b'machlolese. In other words, this one she could stay married to. Aspasu, you could stay married to her. If she wasn't raped, you could stay married, right? She wasn't raped. If she did it, meaning she did it on purpose, then it's also. But if she was raped, she's mutter. And there's another one, even if she was raped, it's also. But it's a lav. You can't stay married to the kohen, but it's a lav of b'machlolese. This one you could stay married to, the other one you can't. So it's only going to say, why is it a lav? Amarava, no. Amarava. So l'chora, the how do you say over here that she's chayiv also for tuma? It's only saying no. Amarava, I'll call you b'chlal zona. No. Everybody's included zona. In other words, when the Torah says that a Kohen should marry a zona, so all women, whether they were raped or she slept with somebody else, whatever the circumstance was, she's a zona. But if she wasn't raped, she's mother's husband. The Chaladesh is going to the Kaima. The Ashes Kohen still says it's a zona. So even though you say that there's you're learning apparently that there's a lav over here, and the lav is only above Mechalesi, but the Isser of Zona is still there because she's still called a Zona. The Torah has an answer for this, but the Isser of the lav of Zona still remains. So therefore, according to this sheet of Rava, Ashes Kohen Shenensa, if a wife of a Kohen who was raped, and then the husband stays with her, she's chayiv too for Zona and for Tuma. Economics some say Amarava. No, that it wasn't. It's Rava, not Rava. Amarava Ashes Kohen Shenensa Baloko Mishum Tuma, only Tuma. Mishum Tuma, Mishum Zona Lo, only for Tuma, not because of Zona. Alma, but onis lo kari Zona. If she was raped, she's not called the Zona. It's forbidden to stay married to her, but she's not called the Zona. How can you say she's not called the Zona? Masar of Zeir Bino Aspas Asura, Hanas Pasim Materis. The same thing by Sota. If she was deceived, she's mutter. V'yesh lacheres is another woman who is that who's not allowed to stay married, even though she did it. She was raped. Not fishing Aspas Asura. Basis Zuesh Kohen. So it's only an assay. It's not a law. No, everybody was included Asher Tuma, meaning if somebody was defiled, all kinds of women, wives of Kohen and wives of not Kohen. If she wasn't raped, then she's also meaning if she's a sota, she was also possible, but if she was raped, she's mutter. So therefore, the Isser of Tuma, lo yuchal bala rishon, that law, lo yuchal bala Tuma, is saying that the Isser of Tuma is still there, meaning the question was, how do you say, you said that she's only, if Ashes Kohen was raped, he stays with her, she's chayiv he's chayiv the lav of lo yuchal bal rishon asher Tuma. So the question was, isn't that only an assay? So it's mashma Machal Desh is going to the Kaima, meaning so it's mashma. It's only a lav b'chol essay. It's not a lav. The answer is no. The lav is lo yuchal bal tuma is a lav on everybody. So there's a heter for Ashes Yisrael. If she was raped, she's allowed to marry. But the Yisra Kohen, if she's Ashes Kohen, that lav still remains. So there's a lav. But and we come according to the economy, Rabbah says, and that's what we pass. And the Ashes Kohen shenetza baluk mishum tuma, not because of zona. She's not called a zona. A zona is a woman who willingly slept with somebody that she's not allowed to get married to, right? If a woman voluntarily married a mamzer, let's say, even a lav, it's only a mamzer, she became his basha, she's a zona now, and a Kohen can't marry her. Or certainly if she married somebody who was chayiv kares, where kedusha's not tofu, certainly she's a zona. But so in this case, saying if she was raped, she's not a zona, but she's still been defiled. And since she's been defiled, there's a lav of a lav to take her back. Says the Mishnah. It says the Mishnah. Okay, we'll pick up from the Mishnah tomorrow. We're not going to have time now. We'll pick up from the Mishnah Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. Chodesh Tov.